Good Yontif to everybody, and welcome. Today is Yud Kislev, the 10th day of the month of Kislev. This day, a mere 199 years ago, is the day that the Mittler Rebbe, the second Rebbe, the son of the Alter Rebbe, right, his father is the author of the Tanya, he was released from prison. Alter Rebbe will celebrate the end of next week, the 19th, in 9 days, his release from prison. And today we celebrate the release from prison of the Mittler Rebbe, Rabbi Dov Ber. What's the significance of his release from prison? An imprisonment in the physical world is an expression of an imprisonment in the spiritual world, which means that the teachings of the one who's in prison, because a Rebbe, a teacher, Rebbe means my teacher, is you know, being questioned in heaven. And that's more of the Alter Rebbe, which we'll tell about him when that time comes. But let's continue with our mimer, our Hasidic discourse. But our Hasidic discourse is Pada B'Shalom, that we're redeemed in peace. So we spoke that you can be redeemed through war. There's physical war. There's spiritual war. That's prayer. And all those are about redeeming. Physical war is about redeeming the evil of the world, right? Destroying that evil. Spiritual war is about redeeming the negativity from within us, which is in our heart. And that's why prayer is the format for that, because prayer is in the heart and about the heart. But then there's peace, redeeming through peace, which is a study of Torah. And 3 dimensions of study Torah, as we've explained. The revealed parts, the esoteric part, which is what we're learning. And in the esoteric, there's 2 dimensions. There's understanding, and then experiencing it in a palpable, real way, and as if it's alive, right? So this ties in with the concept of Mesirus Nefesh. Literally means Mesirus Nefesh, giving over your soul. What does it mean to give over your soul? So ultimately, right, it would mean literally giving up your life for your connection to Hashem, to God, right? But that's not the context over here, even though there is, that would be, I guess, in battle. In a physical battle can be, right, Mesirus Nefesh, as we see, those who are battling today for the security in the land of Israel, ready to give up their very lives. That's Chassidus Nefesh. But well, maybe come back to that. So the Mittler Rebbe, who's today's day that we celebrate his release from prison, he speaks about Chassidus Nefesh in the ultimate manner that what does it mean to give over your very being? That there is no difference whether you have the cup of water or you don't have the cup of water. That's really right. By lacking something, you don't, and lacking the cup of water, let's say you're thirsty and you're lacking the cup of water, you're not experiencing the pain of lacking anything. Because the only thing that you desire is your connection to Hashem. That's that's an expression of the very core essence of the soul. A very lofty level, right? This person is a very lofty individual, doesn't even desire to connect to God because they're constantly connected. Whoa. That's, think for a moment that, to be in a position, in a state of being that whether you have or don't have something in life is all equal. Doesn't matter. So then why would you want it? Something. I don't know. Um, you would, all you want is the connection. Not all you, no, you don't even want the connection because you have the connection. So you're not even desiring to connect to God because you're already constantly connected. Whoa, that's a very lofty level. Now, the Alter Rebbe also speaks about Mesiras Nefesh and says that every act of serving God, though an ordinary mitzvah, and nothing lofty and, as we just spoke about, is Mesiras Nefesh. So they seem to be like worlds, like the act of, okay, I'm putting aside my desire for the cup of water right now because I'm teaching, right? Maybe that is an example. In that act, I'm putting myself aside, right? That's a lot. That's a lot less than what we just described from the Mittler Rebbe. But says the Rebbe that there's a common point between them. And that is, in the moment, what are you doing when you put aside the cup to have a cup of water? You're putting aside your own need to fulfill God's need. You hear that? The same thing is that lofty level of the Mittler Rebbe that you desire, whether you have or don't have, is also an expression. You're putting aside your need. That's a bittul. That's a bittul, self-effacement. Even though there's many levels on that, but the fundamental core is you're putting yourself aside for what God needs of you. Hmm. And therefore, if it's even just in the act, so Mesiras Nefesh, this this putting, giving yourself over, the core of it is the idea of thinking not about yourself, but what God needs from you. Now, sometimes it's obvious what God needs, and sometimes it's not so obvious but that is that desire to not make it about you, right? Um, is all encompassing. So when you enlist in an army, the moment you're in the army, what does that mean? It means it's not about you anymore. It's about your service in the army, even if you're not fighting yet. But the very fact that you enlist in the army, you kind of give up. Hmm. Interesting court case of that Marine, right? Ex-Marine, but he's still a Marine. He's no longer in the army. He's still a Marine, meaning the responsibility and the duty of a Marine, right? Once you enlist in the army, even though you're not battling, and here, you're no longer officially, but you're no longer, so to speak, in charge of yourself. You have to give yourself over, to the dictates in the, of your officers and so on. And you're no longer a person for yourself. It's the same thing is every Jew is a member of God's army, Tzivos Hashem as it's called. And each one enlists with an approach of absolute dedication, giving yourself over completely to God, who's the commander in chief. So even when you just enter the army, now you're starting with your service of Hashem and the performance of Mesiras Nefesh. of the giving yourself over, as the Alter Rebbe said, in every act. In that very act contains the very core of the person. Because in every act, just as you, what are you doing? You're putting a self to your side. You're no longer a private person. You are now in God's army. Hmm. So the key is you're no longer a private person, and therefore you have a responsibility putting in every act that you are acting for the commander in chief. That putting that you're not a private person anymore, and that every act is an expression of giving yourself over totally for what God needs from you. That's called Mesiras Nefesh. It's self-effacement of giving yourself over. And it's not like, it's not the notion, oh, I'm an experienced army man, and after so much experience now I've given myself over. It's not the way it works in the army. The moment you enlist, the moment you are part of the army, you didn't go to battle yet. Doesn't matter. You're not a private person anymore. So in Hashem's army means that there's the absolute dedication of give yourself over to Hashem completely from the get-go. You're not experienced. It doesn't matter. Giving yourself over entirely is not about, how experienced you are and how capable you are and how much you've grown. So what does it mean? It means for us that like every day is a new day. Every day we are part of Hashem's army. So what that means is that I'm asking myself, okay, God, what do you need from me? I'm not my own person. I'm yours. That I'm every act I've given myself over, and that act is an expression of the core essence of I am. Even though it's just an action, it's not like, the Mittler Rebbe explained about giving yourself over, that whether you don't have, everything is like meaningless except for your connection to God. This is the same expression. Wow. Because in the core, it's the same idea of not what I need, but what I'm needed for. And that's something I'm capable of. That's the key over here. The moment I accept that I am, in God's army. And in God's army, you fight. You fight will continue. You fight a physical war, you fight a spiritual war, and then you come to a place you don't need to fight at all, and you're redeemed in peace in different dimensions. Okay. Wow. Which will tie in. Thank you for all being here. I got to tell you, because I was learning this and I didn't have a clarity, but now expressing it, teaching it, it's helping me that it's coming together. It's only thanks to you.
Thank you, Rabbi.